Shabbat Shalom. Our Torah portion this week, Bo, continues the drama and the action. Last week we read about the first 7 plagues that God places on the Egyptians, leaving off with the plague of hail. The plagues are terrible, and there's suspense. What will Pharaoh do? Will he finally let the Israelites go? We pick up this week with God hardening Pharaoh's heart. The tension escalates with the arrival of the 8th and 9th plagues, locusts, and darkness. Then Moses explains to Pharaoh that later that night God will strike down every firstborn Egyptian. But again, Pharaoh refuses to let the Israelites go. And here we have it, the climactic moment. God is about to smite the firstborn of all the Egyptians. We turn the page and we read this. The Eternal One said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, "This month shall mark for you the beginning of the months. It shall be the first of the months of the year for you. Speak to the community leadership of Israel and say that on the 10th of this month, each of them shall take a lamb to a family, a lamb to a household," and it goes on. We get the dry specifications of how to observe Passover throughout the ages at this climactic moment of the narrative. Rather than continuing the drama, we get this instruction. A few paragraphs later, we read that you should remember this day and you should celebrate it as a festival to the eternal throughout the ages. What is going on here? Why does the story shift from the excitement of the plagues and the intrigue of what Pharaoh will do to these instructions for Jews of all ages? I wonder if these everlasting instructions are there to teach the Israelites an important lesson. Yes, they are acting in the story to preserve their own lives, to do what is right for themselves and their children, but what they do also matters for the ages. Their actions have a ripple effect across history. Now, as far as I know, we are not characters in a Bible. And at the same time, it seems that part of being Jewish, part of belonging to this long chain of history and tradition, is believing that what we do matters to those who came before us and to those who will come after us. What we do is collectively part of a long and an important story. The past couple weeks, I know that many of us have been concerned about our country. As I read commentary on the news, I often hear people use metaphors like that folks are trying to, quote, flood the zone, or that keeping up with the news is like trying to drink from a fire hose. There is so much to be concerned about right now. So many of the values that we as a community hold dear are under attack. Tonight, I want to focus on one core value that is being challenged. Before the current administration even came to power, one estimate I found online found that conservatives spent over $215 million on anti-trans advertising during the election. Before we even got to the words and policies that have been put into action since January 20th, it's important to pause for a second to consider the impact of the rhetoric that has gotten us to this point. I think especially of trans and non-binary children. They are some of the most vulnerable people in our society. As they figure out their gender identities, what is the impact of all this scapegoating and hatred? In his inauguration speech, the president pledged to oppose the rights of trans and non-binary people to express their gender identities. Since then, he signed an executive order that, according to the New York Times, effectively eliminated any rights and recognition afforded to transgender Americans and others who don't identify as the sex they were assigned at birth within the domain of the federal government. These policies will have serious and immediate effects on people's lives, particularly as they do things like renew passports and driver's licenses. But I worry most about this general atmosphere of scapegoating and cruelty. And so I think it's important to say This community affirms people's right to define their gender as they like. To those feeling the weight of the hatred directed their way, we as a community are here for you. We care about you. No changes in the political winds, no leader, no executive order is going to change that. I encourage each and every one of us here tonight and watching online to reach out to folks in our lives who are under attack because of their gender identities, and tell them that we are here for them and that we care. To illustrate how hard this can be on folks, I want to share a reflection written by a friend of mine, one of my rabbinical school classmates, Rabbi Ariel Tovlev. Rabbi Tovlev writes, "I don't know how to feel knowing that there is an executive order targeting me and people like me, that my government is determined to deny the rights of transgender individuals, that soon I may be breaking the law every time I enter a restroom or use my ID card which presents me as male. How is forcing me to use the women's restroom protecting women? I'm afraid I may lose health care or be put in dangerous situations. I'm afraid. Most of all, I'm afraid for all the trans youth who will grow up with the message that they are less than, that their truth is invalid and goes against God, that they are anything other than holy beings deserving love." This makes me think back to the message of our Parsha. We are acting not just for ourselves, but for the broader Jewish story that is unfolding. There is so much volatility and change in the story of our country. What role do we want to play in it? What do we want to know that our ancestors would have thought, and what do we want to tell our descendants about what we did? In this difficult moment, we turn to kindness and acceptance in all the issues we face, but especially as we stand up for the rights of trans and non-binary people. The only answer is to choose kindness. And so I'd like to conclude with some more words from Rabbi Tovlev. He writes, "This following blessing asserts that trans people are not an abomination. God, in their infinite wisdom, made us trans. We are sacred, we are beautiful, we are created in the image of God. We are blessed and we are a blessing. We are entering an era of hate. We must combat hate with love. We must declare, not in our name, not in God's name. All humans are holy. Please share the love. Let the trans people in your life know how loved they are." And Rabbi Tovlev wrote a blessing. "Blessed are you, infinite Spirit, who has molded my soul from contradictions, from apparent opposites. You have created me, and from within dichotomies, I can see the plurality of your creation. Blessed are you, infinite Spirit, who has made me trans." Shabbat Shalom.